Hello, younger old here, and welcome to my channel. Today's video is aimed at new riders. However, anyone can watch it, but it's basically about some of the mistakes I see new riders making and a few tips to help new riders on their journey. Stay tuned, watch the intro. One of the things I see new riders do, and I have to be honest, I was guilty of it myself when I first passed my test, and that is trying to ride beyond your capabilities. It's mostly done when you go out with a group of friends. They're more experienced than you, they're coming into bends and exiting bends a lot quicker than you are, and you try to keep up. You're pushing yourself beyond your limits, and it's very dangerous. Luckily, I never came to grief during that, but I came close to it a couple of times. I think it's far better that when you get your bike, you don't go out with your friends, you just ride solo and practice everything you've learned from your lessons and just get used to the bike. Then when you feel comfortable, then you sort of go out with your friends. But, you know, just be honest with them and they'll know you've just passed your test. And, okay, if you drop behind a bit, so be it. You know, don't worry about it. I always say, let them get to the next coffee stop and get you your coffee in. And by the time you get there, it'll be ready for you. So, you know, ride within your capabilities. Now, this is a topic of much discussion. I actually had this chat with new trainees when they've just passed the test, and that is, what size bike should I buy? A lot of people say, yeah, you don't want anything too big, too powerful, but I do tend to agree with that. But then there's other circumstances that come into the situation. As I'm 6'2" and large build, and I knew at the time I would be taking a pillion, I wasn't going to pay out for a smaller bike and then have to change it in a few weeks. You know, it just didn't make economical sense. So the first big bike I bought after passing my test was the 1989 Kawasaki ZX-10, which is actually the pre-runner to the ZZR 1100. My main reason for having this bike was it was owned by a friend of mine, so I knew it was mechanically sound and looked after, and it was the right size for me. I could handle the weight, no problem, you know, but I didn't feel safe on something because small. So whether that bike had had a 500cc engine in it or the 1000, I probably wouldn't have noticed much difference, but I just wanted something which I felt more comfortable on. Yes, it did take me a while to get used to the power, and a couple of times on a nice straight road I did give it a bit of a handful of throttle, and yeah, basically that was the best laxative known to man. But I soon learned that at the end of the day it's only going to go as fast as much as I turn the throttle. I can potter around at 30 mile on it, no problem at all. At the end of the day, even if you started out with something like a 500, 600cc bike, they're still going to out-accelerate most sports cars on the market. At the end of the day, they're still fast. It's down to your self-control to ease it back on the speed. My lifelong mate, we've been friends for about 55 years now, he hasn't got a bike licence. He refuses to get one because he actually admits I would have to try the bike to see what speed it does. Now, you know, my Blackbird and my Gen 1 and my Gen 2 ZZR 1400s, they're the so-called restricted to 186 mile an hour, but he'd have to try it out. You know, I never got anywhere near the top speeds of those bikes, but he'd have to have a go. and he says I'm either going to end up very dead or a long ban or a prison sentence. So he knows his faults, and therefore that's why he doesn't ride a bike. So you have to use your common sense and self-control. Would I exercise, or should I say, have I exercised that thought when I was 17? Absolutely not. I had my 120 Suzuki and I rode it like a madman. I fell off over 18 times, I think, in the first 12 months. But then again, there were no CBT, no training. I went to collect the bike up, a brand new B120, and it was, that's the clutch, that's the brake, that's your gear change, here's the keys. That was your training, so at the end of the day, yeah, I didn't have self-control when I was that age. Now, I can't do a video like this without going back, harping on about my favourite sort of topic, motorcycle clothing. Now, when it's winter, you see riders riding along and they've either got the Kevlar jeans, or they've got the Gore-Tex trousers, or leather, jacket, gloves, everything, because it's cold. So, you need to keep warm. But as soon as we get into the summer, the sun's shining, we get 30 degrees, then that's it, out come the shorts and the t-shirt. I mean, to me it's just madness. You come off, whether it be your fault or not, you're going to go sliding down the road and you're going to lose a lot of skin. It's not only about just getting bad skin rash, but at the end of the day, any bony bits, elbows, knees, shoulder, anything like that, where the bone is close to the skin, that hits the road at 30 mile an hour plus, the chances are it's going to break. So, you can end up in an absolute mess. And I know people say it's hot and it's sweaty, but you know what, in my opinion, I'd sooner sweat than bleed. Another thing I've seen new riders make mistakes with, and that is their braking techniques. So when we're riding along, we ride with our hand on the throttle. What we don't do is we don't ride our hands like that, because I can be in a situation where I've got a fair amount of throttle on and pull my brake in. Now the bike don't know what it wants to do, because one part of my hand is telling it to speed up and the other half is telling it to brake. So with riding like that, obviously for us to reach the front brake lever, we have to release the throttle. Therefore, engine braking has been engaged. So the bike is already starting to slow down, minimally, but it all helps. And then we squeeze the brake. Something we always usually advise trainees on is not to do it with the old two fingers over the lever. Because if I squeeze the brake in now, I'm actually hitting the padded knuckles on my gloves. So all I'm now doing is squeezing my fingers. I'm not actually applying any more braking force. So, 4 fingers over the brake will always give you better braking control. So when you're practicing your braking, make sure you've got a clear space in front of you. Check your mirrors, make sure no one's behind you. Off the throttle and gently squeeze. Practice it at different speeds. Practice it in the dry and in the wet until you come, fully aware of the braking of your particular bike. We're going to use the same technique for a procedure called a control stop, where we're just bringing it nicely to a halt, nice and gentle on both brakes. Anything behind me? I mean, it's very hard. Well, now most of the bikes, like this one, have all got ABS, so you have got, you know, less danger of locking the wheels up. But it's something which you just get out there and practice. Another thing I see newer riders tend to miss out is the lifesaver checks. You know, the most critical one being you're turning right from a major road into a minor road, and just before you turn, you know, you miss that last lifesaver, and you turn, and then just as some idiots overtaking you. Vitally important not to miss that one. I have done a video on that one, so check it out. At the end of the day, you didn't miss them out on your test. You know, if you had it done, you would have failed it. So, you know, try to get in the habit not to miss them out now. Well, I hope you found some of this information useful. If you have, please do the tips to like and subscribe. And as always, take care, ride safe, and bye for now.